Okay, I'd like to call the regular City Council, City of Monarch City Council meeting, March 19, 2024 to order. Invocation tonight will be given by Councilman Donovan.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand, and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling? Here. Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here. Okay, Council, you're in receipt of the minutes from the March 5th, 2024 regular meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes. Moving on, public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 24-0-027.
An ordinance amending Part 1, Title 5, Section 15113 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, and Resolution 22R103, the same relating to compensation for council employees, and declaring an emergency.
Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr.
quick
Martin.
question for Mr. Flipiak. Mr. Flipiak, we have 6 or 7 different unions in the city, correct? 7? 6? 7.
We have police patrolmen, sergeants, lieutenants, our dispatchers, and jailers. We have the service group that's comprised of recreation and public works employees, part-time fire, full-time fire. I don't think I missed anybody.
Then we have
And
non-bargaining.
then a non-bargaining group,
And then
yes.
this would be, this ordinance for council employees.
Yes.
So has every union agreed to their terms?
We are still negotiating with our police command officers, our sergeants, lieutenants, and our dispatchers.
Okay. So the point that I'm leading up to is, I know what, I talked to Mr. Krieger and Mr. Blake, and this arose, and there's really no set policies or procedures for this particular ordinance for council employees. So maybe we should have some policies and procedures in place for this. For example, my opinion would be, I feel a little uncomfortable about us giving our employees their raise that is due when all of the other city employees haven't already fallen underneath that umbrella. Whether it's 343, whatever it is that we are given. So, Mr. Zeman, what would it take for us to be able to put something in place so that it doesn't fall through the cracks again, and then we kind of fall in line with everybody else?
It seems, Mr. Martin, it's a question of timing. It's certainly council's prerogative to take no action on this matter and wait until the final 2 collective bargaining agreements are finalized.
Well, I'm just looking more for the future. I'm like, you see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get a little bit more policies and type of procedure in place,
Right.
so that this doesn't fall through the cracks for our employees and that we are following all the other employees in the city of Mentor.
I think historically, and certainly it's not a written rule, but I thought historically the custom was is after the manager has made recommendation relative to any wage adjustments for non-bargaining unit workers, then the council would review its employees for purposes of adjustments if appropriate to its employees.
And to that point, we did approve the raise for the non-bargaining employees at our last meeting, so I think this is a good time to do this.
But we still have 2 outstanding, and that's what my point is.
If I can, Mr. President, the outcome of this is an unusual year because we the OPB represents 3 of those bargaining units. It was generally agreed to by the city and the union that OPBA would be representing patrolmen, and as you know, that went through all the way through conciliation. So it's put those other negotiations on hold. What I will tell you is, I think it is unlikely that the wages that come out of those agreements, I think it's unlikely that they would be any lower than the patrolman's agreement, and certainly if they were higher, that would not be reflected in the ordinance before you or in the non-bargaining. So in other words, our non-bargaining ordinances that council has already adopted have generally followed the same pattern that we've offered the patrolmen, the fire department, and our service employees. We would not recommend a higher amount than that, and so that's just
And I
basically trying
and
to
I
make it
realize
work.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I agree with it. It's just, and I realize too, when you have 9 different groups, it makes it somewhat cumbersome.
This is a very unusual timing, and I think Mr. Zeman's right. Typically, we will bring you non-bargaining employee positions after we've completed the negotiating for them. This is just a very unusual year.
Okay. I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah.
And then part 2, Mr. President, is that we had a committee last year that met with, that dealt with policies and procedures. Whatever happened with the policies and procedures for council employees?
They're still pending, so for further discussion.
Okay.
Okay, when are we going to discuss those, Mr. President?
I don't know, we can talk about that offline, but at some point.
Can we have a work session on it?
We could.
We could, yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
I second to Mr. Kirchner.
Oh, wait,
I thought you went ahead.
No, I have a question on the, not a question, but a suggestion. I think it makes sense to coordinate the council employee raises or to coincide with the non-bargaining. Because like you mentioned, obviously this year is sort of extraordinary, but there are times when the union, they go to a different level of negotiation, which takes a lot more time. So I think in fairness to our employees, in that the non-bargaining folks are getting their raises, maybe to try to do that as a policy, maybe to approximately do that at the same time or not too far after the non-bargaining are given their raises.
Yeah, and I can tell you that our non-bargaining employees appreciate that. I mean, obviously, they don't have access to a collective bargaining process. And as I said, this is in a very unusual year in terms of the length of time from the expiration of those last agreements. So, you know, they were patient, and we appreciated that. But I think more than anything, they appreciate the fact that council did act on that before they were all completed. Typically, that isn't the case, as you know, but, you know, we're well past a year expired for the collective bargaining agreements, and what will transpire with those last 2 units would not have changed the recommendation to council for those non-bargaining employees.
Move to suspend.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
Yes. Ordinance number 24-0-027 has passed. Next is ordinance number 24-0-028.
An ordinance amending Part 7, Chapter 721, Section 721.01 and 721.02 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor, 2006, as amended, to revise the Marijuana Establishment Code in accordance with the amendments to Chapter 3780 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of council. This is an amendment to the business regulation previously that only addressed medical marijuana. As everyone is aware, pursuant to petition, I'll never get out the words, but the law that was passed last November, adult use cannabis is now the law of Ohio. Adult use cannabis operators fall into three classifications: cultivators, processors, and dispensaries. Cultivators are then further segmented into level 1, 2, and 3 facilities based on the square footage of the facilities. So this amendment is permitted by state law. All communities may prohibit all such adult use cannabis operators, prohibit some of them, limit the number of them. Or I suppose a deeper dive would be, what zoning districts, what may they be appropriate, and where else they may not be. So this business regulation, though, would prohibit any adult cannabis operators from locating in the city.
Thank you. Ken, anything you'd like to add, or?
I would just add that I think that this is a prudent move at this point. I think council had an opportunity to discuss this a little bit in your work session. You can always reverse this. I mean, there are the administrative code for this is still being developed by the state of Ohio. So some of the rules in terms of how licensing happens, maybe even some changes to the revenue that could be generated by this, that could change. I know our own Representative Callender has introduced House Bill 354. It's still in committee, but it makes some pretty sweeping, I wouldn't say sweeping changes, but a lot of changes to the legislation that was adopted through the ballot initiative. So I think it's wise to just maybe take this action now, and then if we see some value in resurrecting it later, you can always make a change to that, and we can get our zoning code aligned with it. Maybe determine how many of these, if you want them at all, going forward. I think the other thing too that is just a big unknown is what is the revenue potential here. Nobody knows because they don't exist yet. So. That there's some other legislation, and I think council will have to grapple with going forward. Home cultivation, some of those rules are likely to change through the legislature before they become effective. So this won't be the last recreational marijuana piece of legislation, and I think you'll probably end up entertaining. I would suggest that we get the spelling one way or the other, either marijuana with an H or a J. So I'm not sure what's.
Somebody swapped an H in there instead of a J, but I've seen it spelled both ways.
Yeah, I've seen it many ways, but.
That's in the code.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes. Ordinance number 24-0-028 has been adopted. Moving on, second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, we're issuing a final call for sponsorship opportunities for our 2024 Mentor events, including our popular Mentor Rock Summer Concert Series. We had over 160,000 people attend a Mentor event in 2023, and we're expecting that to grow bigger yet this year. It's through the generosity of these sponsors over the years that have allowed these events to go forward, free of charge to the public. So if for those who may yet be interested, they can visit our website at cityofmentor.com and click the Quick Links tab that link to sponsorships. And the deadline is this Friday, March 22nd. And we've had some very generous outpouring of sponsorships already this year. Ante Legarsic, our public information officer, does a fantastic job with reaching out to the public, and as an example, it funds our entire Mentor Rocks concert series every year. So it's we really appreciate our business community reaching out. City of Mentor is currently planning our annual Memorial Day observance, which will be held on Monday, May 27th, and we invite our veterans groups, civic groups, and members of our community to participate. So for information to register your organization to participate, we also ask them to visit our website at cityofmentor.com and click on those quick links tabs as well. As a reminder to our public that Mentor's yard waste collection program begins April 1st. Residents can put out up to 12 units of yard waste each week on their regular collection day. A unit is a biodegradable bag or up to a 32-gallon reusable container of grass clippings, trimming, twigs, and leaves, or bundles of sticks no more than 4 feet long and 3 inches in diameter. And finally, council, well, actually not finally, one other thing, but we are looking, just also a reminder to our public that we are looking for enthusiastic and energetic camp counselors and lifeguards to join the Mentor Recreation Team. And Mr. Kaminsky, since we have you here, will they be able to be trained if they're untrained currently to take those positions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Flipiak. We currently have 2 classes already scheduled at the Recreation Center for lifeguarding. We have a time available for a 3rd class. So even if you're not currently certified, you're able to attend this class free of charge and then be able to become a lifeguard for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. And, we invite the public to get on our website to look at many other seasonal opportunities, not just at the pools and most of them in the rec center. So we're always looking for good people. And finally, council, we have a few new businesses to announce. The Daily Company at 8500 Center Street, Famous Supply at 7300 Industrial Park Boulevard, in Synergy One Lending at 8500 Station Street. So we appreciate their investment in our city, and we wish them great success going forward.
Right, thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Ante, for all the sponsorships you've gathered in, because I get a lot of calls about that Mentor Rocks. And it seems like every year it's like a snowball. It's getting bigger and better. It's just a lot of fun. So, Ante, thumbs up. Okay, moving on. Clerk's correspondence, Julie.
Council is in receipt of the Mentor Municipal Court 2023 Annual Report, and council is also in receipt of a liquor license transfer from Imperial Dragon, Inc. to Dragon Tyler LLC at 8310 Tyler Boulevard. That is all.
Thank you. Commission committee reports. Council, you're in receipt of the meeting minutes from the Community Arts Commission, February 2nd, 2024. Old business. Hearing none. New business. Hearing none. Persons before council. First time in a long time we've had none.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I make a motion pursuant to revised code section 121.22G8. I move for adjournment into executive session for the purpose of negotiations with another political subdivision respecting a request for economic development assistance, and that, 1, the request is for assistance to be provided or administered under Chapter 715 of the revised code, and 2, I further move that we do so because the executive session is necessary to protect the interests of the applicant.
Thank you. All right, Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Blake, I'm also told that we're meeting in the vault,
Yes. In
Mr.
the new,
Joe's office.
the new law department.
Mr. President, I move that we go back into regular session.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
If there's no other business, Mr. President, I'd move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.